Hey everyone, hope everybody enjoyed writing IPMAT for IEM Rohtak today. The paper, as everybody agreed, was very easy. In fact, every year the same thing happens among all the three IPM examinations from IEM Indore, Rohtak, and JIPMAT. IPMAT Rohtak is usually the easiest one. However, for a competitive examination, if a paper is easy, it's not a very good news because the cutoff is going to be higher. So let's look at the paper, analyze the sections. Let's see the kind of questions that were asked, what is the cutoff, and what can be expected from this paper. So starting with the pattern, there were no surprises, no surprise in pattern. Whatever was communicated earlier, they stuck to the same pattern. There were three sections, that is quantitative ability, logical reasoning, and verbal ability. IM Indore will have two sections of quant. One will be MCQ, one will be short answer, and then there will be verbal ability. There won't be what we call here logical reasoning. There is no exclusive logical reasoning in Indore. But here we had these three sections and of 40 marks each. So quant 40, logical 40, verbal 40. So total marks paper was 120 marks paper. There were 4 marks for correct answer. There was negative marking. So you should have taken care of the accuracy. A blind taking of answer would have been proved fatal in this case. The difficulty level everybody is saying was very easy. Not only easy but also very easy. So anybody who has prepared seriously for that and who was ready for this kind of paper would have found answering the questions easy, comfortable, and easily would have scored more, would have attempted more questions, would have been confident in more questions. So there is a less scope of negative marking. So overall, the paper was quite easy. And since the paper was easy, the cutoff is going to be higher this side. Cutoff is going to be above 315 to 330. So this is the range that we are keeping. However, some experts also mention 350 could be the cutoff. However, we are sticking to this range of 315 to 330. That is the usually could be the cutoff for this paper that we had today. Coming to the section wise analysis, quantitative ability was dominated by arithmetic. So arithmetic had the maximum number of questions. Algebra was sidelined this time. The knowledge of algebra was definitely helpful, but it was not tested in major portions anywhere. There were questions from percentages. There were questions from profit loss and simple interest, compound interest. There were a lot of questions from ratio, averages, mixtures, and several questions from time, speed, distance, and time and work. Linear and quadratic equations also had its presence, and there was one question from trigonometry, one from progressions. There were also two questions from numbers. So expected topics we keep in our classes, in our study material, in our mocks. We make sure to keep the similar ratio of the kind of questions that were that you saw in today's paper. These are the kind of questions that we have been presenting before you. However, if you have been preparing, spending a lot of time on higher mathematics or graphs or log or functions, those questions were missing. There were no questions from higher maths, none from algebra, clocks, none from log, nothing from cubes, nothing from graph. There was one very basic level calendar question, but that's all. And there were at least 5 questions from probability. So probability had good presence, and there were also questions from time and distance. So overall, quantitative ability section was very easy and a good attempt in this section out of the 40 questions that were there. Could be 33 to 36. That could be the good attempt or out of the 40 marks. Then we had this logical reasoning. Logical reasoning was easiest. It is said to be easiest of the three sections. Verbal, quant, and logic was the easiest. And in this section, like 33 to 36 range we gave for quant, here we are keeping it 35. There were at least 5 questions from blood relation. So that had a major, the maximum, one of the greater number of questions from blood relations. Then there were a few questions from coding, decoding, directions, quantitative comparison, syllogism. This time there were 3 sets of questions. So The sets of questions were with 4 or 5 questions each. Now that was interesting. However, the application was quite direct, very straightforward. So these set of questions were from arrangement. So there were linear arrangement, circular arrangement, matrix arrangement, and you could easily apply the data. You could easily attempt these questions with directly. There was a lot of complications was not involved. There were no questions from data interpretation, and there were also 5 to 6 questions from data sufficiency. Those were a bit tricky. Those were not very easy. Data sufficiency questions were a bit tricky. Then, as expected, there were questions from statement conclusion, assumptions, strengthening, weakening arguments, and cause and effect. So overall, again, easy section, one of the easiest section, and good score, 35. Then we had verbal ability. Verbal ability section was also easy to moderate. Why we are saying moderate, not very easy? Because there were some new introductions, some questions were newly introduced that were not seen in previous year papers. So that was a bit, also there was some tricky questions were involved. So easy to moderate, we can say. And there were introductions of new types of questions and a few tricky questions. There were 3 short passages, and the passages were very short passages in reading comprehension with around 8 to 9 questions. Like one of the passages was regarding COVID-19 and how the government dealt with the situation. There were questions based on vocabulary. So there was a question on phobia for not using phone. There were 4 questions on para completion, a few on para jumbles. So the questions on para jumbles were quite easy. Then there were other topics like out of context in the sentence and connectors and fill in the blanks. So these expected questions were also there. So a good attempt in this section could be 30. 30 could be the good attempt in this section. So overall, as everybody, all the candidates that we interacted with, all the feedback that we received, overall the paper was easy. So the cutoff is going to be high. So if you fall in this range that we discussed, you can feel comfortable that you might be getting an interview call. And most candidates attempted around 100 to 110 questions. So that is the number of questions that most of them attempted. So more or less that is where everybody will fall. Then the expected cutoff is expected to be 313 to 330 this time. So that is on a higher side, and it can even go higher. However, this is the range that we are keeping, 315 to 330. So just wait for the results. It's already the 28th May today. So in the first week of June, you will have your results, and in the second or the third week, you can have your interview. So all the best for the interview. Hope you had a great paper. Hope you are ready for the upcoming examinations. On 28th, you have IPMAT. On 16th June, you have Indore. So learn from the mistakes that you did in today's examination so that it's not repeated in the subsequent examination. And all the best. Wish you the best for today's examination. May you get an interview call. May you get selected in IIM Rohtak or in any college of your choice. All the best. Thank you so much.